about 67 true scary stories to tell in the dark. The first one is called Making Toast. Oh my god, making toast is horrifyingly scary. Making toast late one night, facing the kitchen bench, eating for a good 5 to 10 minutes, cleaned up and turned around, and every single cupboard, door, and cutlery drawer were open. They were all closed when I went into the kitchen, and there was no way anyone could have snuck in and done it because I was home alone. I also didn't hear them open in the time I was there. Scared the shit out of me, so I froze, let it register for a few seconds, then calmly closed everything and went back to my room to hide until daylight. One of a few weird things to happen growing up. The next one is called Pig Mask. Our old house was on a corner, and in lieu of a backyard, had a side yard, with a small deck that wrapped around the back. The dining room had patio doors that led out to the back, and we would have barbecues and such back there. When I was about 14, we only had one desktop computer and one laptop for the family. My brother and I would fight over the desktop. That's where Diablo 2 was installed. So I would use the laptop to write music. On one particular night, my brother had a friend over and they were downstairs doing whatever, and I was at the dining room table on the laptop. As I was wrapped up in my writing, I didn't pay much attention to my surroundings. I heard a knock on the patio door, which startled me. I looked up, expecting my brother or his friend. The basement had a door that led to the back deck as well. Standing at the door and waving was a person, could not tell sex or age, wearing a Halloween pig mask. Thinking it was my brother or his friend, I mouthed, "Good one," and gave the person the finger, and they walked away. As soon as they left, I went downstairs to give them shit, and to my surprise and dismay, they were both sitting on the couch playing PlayStation. They swore up and down it wasn't either of them, and there was no way that one of them would have had time to get downstairs and unmask before getting on the couch. To this day, I have no idea who it was that knocked and waved. Ew. The next one is called Last Day on Earth. I worked from 2 to 11 p.m. at a gas station in one of the nicer cities around here, and I had a gentleman look me in the eyes and ask if I'm enjoying my last day on Earth. Walked away before I could answer. It's creepy as fuck. The next one is called I'm Still Here. I came home pretty late one night and my roommate's bedroom door was shut, and I assumed she was sleeping already, but I saw something out of the corner of my eye in the kitchen. I said her name, but she didn't answer. I didn't think anything of it, so I walked into my room, and before I turned the light on, something whispered, "I'm still here." I turned on the light in my room, but nothing was there, so I turned on every light in my house and knocked on my roommate's door, and eventually opened it, but she wasn't there, so I left her light on too, and slept with all the lights on. When she came back the next morning, I asked her if she was messing with me, and she started crying and said she left because something was in the house messing with her, and she had to get out. What the fuck? No. No. Simply no. The next one is called Raising a Serial Killer. Fabulous. Me, my wife, and my 3-year-old son are sitting in the food court at Costco. There is another family with a 4 to 5-year-old girl sitting behind us. My son looks at me and says, "Do you see that girl over there? I'm going to teach her a lesson." What the fuck does that even mean? Why would a 3-year-old say that? So I'm taken aback for a second, then I think he must intend Ew. No. No, thank you. The next one is called They Knew. They Knew. A family friend of mine used to work in private wealth management. One of her jobs was diversification of her clients' assets on the stock market. Out of nowhere, she gets a call from a representative of one of her very big private clients to sell all the stocks of a big airline and move the liquidity somewhere else. No buts. And if needed, they could sell in up to 5% below market as long as the shares are sold quickly. This was extremely weird as the stock price of the company was pretty stable, and specifically this client's portfolio was heavily hedged with this stake. But she didn't think much of it. Oftentimes her clients did this for personal reasons, such as having a bad experience on a plane of the company or etc. 2 days later, one of her colleagues that she shared this peculiar story told her how the airline stock price started slowly but surely falling. Some people were selling off their shares too, which were gladly bought by the market at increasing prices. The next day, American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York. The stock market was closed for another week. The next story is called Hello. I went camping by myself. There's your mistake right there. That first sentence, I went camping by myself. Why? Why would you do that? No, I'm genuinely asking, why the fuck would you do that? I went camping by myself in Maine. One night I woke up at like 3 a.m. Of course you did. Not being able to fall asleep, I just laid there listening to the woods. Then I heard a faint hello. I was petrified. I felt so vulnerable in the tent. I never figured out what it was. That was very short. The next one is called Would You Like to Come Live in My Basement? What the fuck kind of a question is that? When I was 17 and worked in retail as a cashier, I had a very old couple come through my line buying a wok. The husband, who was at least 85, started making conversation with me about the wok and asked if I like Chinese food. Yeah, I like Chinese. Do you want to go out with me to get some Chinese? He winks at me. No, sir. Oh, well. He looks a bit disappointed and turns to look at his wife, who was on the phone with someone. Would you at least like to come home with me and live in my basement? No. The rest of the transaction took place in terrified silence. His wife never said a word. I wonder to this day if he was trying to joke because he sounded so sincere, or if he was suffering from dementia or something else that made him not realize how creepy that sounds to someone young enough to be your great-grandchild. What the hell is wrong with you? The next one is called Followed. The summer after I graduated from high school, I left work early and went up to my parents' cabin in northern Michigan. Spent that night at the beach watching the sunset. Once the sun went down and it became nearly pitch black, no light pollution, I got to my car and started driving down the highway. After about 10 seconds of being at speed, there was an older Tahoe, late 90s, that started riding my ass and flashing its high beams. So I got up to about 60 in a 45. They were still on my ass. I pulled off to the side of the road that my parents' cabin is off of, and they took the same turn. I thought this seemed weird because there's only about 30 to 40 houses on the road. So I went all the way to the end, which is usually a dead end, but leads to a maintenance area for the golf course nearby. Truck was still following me. At this point I was freaking out because if I pulled into the house, they'd know where we lived, and they were still following close by. I took a ton of random turns, and the truck kept following every single turn for about 15 minutes. I finally had a chance to make a turn with traffic going through the intersection that gave me a few seconds of a head start. Pulled down a side street, went up 100 yards, turned off all of my lights and waited. Truck for a long evening walk. The next one is called The Evil Twin. New Year's Day, 1995. I was in the middle of third year university, and a bunch of friends had come down to visit me and my roommate for the festivities. We were all pretty hungover from drinking the night before and went out for the usual nice day out, a bit chilly, I don't feel so good, post-greasy breakfast hangover stroll around the neighborhood. Two of these friends were twin brothers. One of them we hung out with all the time, the other we just met for the first time. He was pretty normal the night before, joining in the fun. But on this day, we were all hanging around a local basketball court, shooting hoops with an old basketball we'd found in the grass. And this twin brother kept following me around all over the place with the creepiest grin I'd ever seen in my life, staring right into the nether regions of my soul the whole time. I'd back away and join the group again, and he'd keep following me around. When we were walking back to the apartment, it was just me and him walking down the sidewalk behind the group, and he moved over in front of me, stared at me with that creepy look again, and fell down to his knees, as if to worship me or something. I didn't know what to do. Hey buddy, you alright? We're heading back now, right? And so on. He wouldn't say anything, he'd just be there on his knees looking up at me with a clenched face and squinted eyes as if he were looking directly into the sun or something. Later that day, my roomie said he was tripping balls, so I thought nothing of it and moved on with my life. A few weeks later, we got a phone call from the twin brother we usually hang out with, and it turned out that this other twin brother went over to his aunt's place with a knife and stabbed her 14 times. What? She didn't die, but still pretty bad. He had even called the police before going because he knew he was going to do it, but he couldn't stop himself from doing it because, the voices and so on. The ensuing court case was widely covered in the media, as this was a relatively smaller community where this sort of thing does not happen on a regular basis. I was reading one of the articles, and one of the testimonies was that this twin brother was severely schizophrenic and was hearing voices in his head. He believed to his very bones that his aunt was the devil, and that he had been commanded by God to go and kill her. So who was this God that told him to go kill her? Well, as the newspaper article described, it was a guy in a group he hung out with on New Year's Day. Didn't take me long to realize he was talking about me. Oh my God. This was 22 years ago. I know for a fact it was mental illness, but just knowing that I had somehow commanded him to go kill his aunt still stays with me to this day. That is wild. Can you even imagine? The next one is called Always Look Under the Bed. My great aunt lived way out in the boonies by an old southern prison. This was before most people had TV, so she had been listening to the radio and found out that a violent rapist had escaped from the prison nearby. She walked into her bedroom and had one of those old saggy mattresses and felt something under the bed. I don't like it. She said something didn't feel right, and she slowly got off the bed and called the police. When they arrived, they found the rapist under her bed, holding a knife from her kitchen. He told them he had been waiting for her to go to sleep so he could rape her and then stab her to death. What the No. Well, a person could fit under my bed, but I'm thankful that I have a dog, so there's no way that anyone could be hiding, under my bed or anything without her alerting me. That's fucking terrifying, and I simply cannot. The next one is called Someone Was There. We were living with my brother-in-law and his two teens when I was pregnant. He has an elevated house on quite a bit of former hunting land, several miles down a county road. My husband works 7 to 6, and my brother-in-law works offshore for 14 days. While he was at work, his kids stayed with their grandmother. Nice nice house, but it had a weird vibe. I chalked it up to pregnancy hormones. One day, home alone, I was taking a shower, and I felt someone staring at me. Why are pervy ghosts always staring at you in the shower? I've heard so many stories like that. I was taking a shower and I felt like someone was staring at me. Can somebody please explain? A while later, I heard the back door shut. I was standing in the kitchen and could see the door, which had no steps and was 6 feet from the ground. The door was still locked. I told my husband about it that night and he shrugged it off. We locked down and went to bed. I don't know how long I'd been asleep, but I woke up to the blankets being yanked off the bed and my husband flipping on every light in the house. He threw open every door, every cabinet, looked in every pantry or closet while holding his handgun. I asked what was going on and he swore he heard boots thumping through the house and someone talking. Everything was still locked and it's not a big house. Nobody was there except us. One night, a while later, my niece came into our room. Her dad worked overnight and we had them for a few days, and asked to sleep in the bed with us. Now this girl isn't scared of anything and is 14 at the time. I sat up, told my husband to scoot over, and I patted my pillow. That's when I noticed her 16-year-old brother curled up under a blanket on the floor beside me. Why are you both in our room at 2 in the morning? They didn't want to answer at first, but explaining that something in my niece's room laughs at night. Absolutely not. I hated that room when we moved in and put up any laundry I did quickly in there. I asked my nephew why he was on the floor and he said, she came into my room on the cot to sleep, but something started knocking on the door. We came down here as soon as it stopped. Again, husband flipped on every light, looked in every nook and cranny. Nothing. Eventually, we moved out. Would have moved out like the next day. And the kids decided to live full-time with Grandma. My husband said he heard a man laughing in my niece's room, but there was nobody there when he turned the lights on. Scared the shit out of him. Well, yeah. Okay, the last one I'm gonna read for now is called I Was Almost a Hostage. I will do a part 2, so I can read the rest of them. These are pretty good stories. I was walking down the street when I saw a rusty nail in the road. I picked it up and threw it into an empty house's yard. Not helpful, I know. After I threw the nail, a man came out of what I thought was an empty house and shouted to me. I freaked out, thinking it was about the nail, and kept walking towards my house. The guy didn't sound mad, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. He started following me to the street and gesturing me to come over, but my gut told me to keep on walking. And yes, listen to your freaking gut. I get home and see from my house the empty house is now surrounded by cops. At this point, I think it's still about the nail. After a while, it gets worse and men in full gear show up. I found out later that the house was indeed empty. The men inside were known criminals, and I very much almost ended up hostage. Shit. That's crazy. I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Like I said, I'm gonna make a part 2 for this video so I can finish up the rest of the stories. Hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. Are any of you making New Year's resolutions? I usually don't, but I feel like I should this year.